Okay, welcome back. Here we go. Lesson 8, adding and subtracting integers, signed numbers. Big star on this. When adding integers, I feel it's best to think about loss and gain. Think about debt and credit, debits and credits in your bank account. So, for example, -4, think of that as I'm in debt $4. I have -$4 in my bank account. Plus 5. I gain 5. I deposit 5. Well, I'd be to the good 1. Now, another way of, and I'm going to give you an alternative to thinking about that in a moment, especially if you're a visual person. Okay, here's 0, 1, 2, 3. So here you are down at -4, right? You could always kind of map it out in your mind. So you're at -4 in your bank account, but then you gain 5. Well, that means you move to the right 5, so where would you be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aha! You'd end up at 1 on the number line. So, you can draw it out on the number line, or you can just think in your mind about loss and gain. I think most of you are comfortable with money. So let's talk about reading add as gain and reading negative as loss. So let's just practice reading this. So 6, and then I'm going to add a loss of 8. Well, if you're adding a negative, that really means you're subtracting, you're losing. So 6 lose 8, you could even read this as 6 lose 8. Well, if I have 6 and I lose 8, I'm going to be in the hole too. I'm going to end up with -$2. Okay? We're just going to continue practicing that again, and if you need to draw that out, just think about this. 6, that's positive 6, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Think about yourself standing here at, at 6. And then adding a -8, that really means adding a loss of 8, and every time you see loss 8 or -8, go to the left 8 units. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's going to bring me way down here at -2 on the number line. So you can visualize how you arrive at -2, or if you're really comfortable with money, if you have $6 in your account and you write a check for 8, and you lose 8, you're going to be -2, 2 in the hole. Okay, let's try again. Let's read this example. Let's read it as a loss of 3, like I have -$3 in my bank account. And then I add another loss. I know that's awkward. How can you add a loss? Well, adding a negative is the same thing as loss, losing, period. So if I lose 3 and I lose another 5, I'm going to be in the whole 8. I've got an overall loss of 8. And again, if you need to visualize that, just picture yourself standing, at -3 on the number line, and then when you add a loss of 5, that really means -5, so you're going to go to the left 5, and I'll just map that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I go to the left 5, where am I going to end up? Well, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. See? Going to arrive at -8. So you can always sort of draw it out if you need to. And I'll even zoom in on this picture here so we can see this a little better. Remember, adding a negative is the same thing as minus. So in this example, we have -2, add -3. Well, I like to think of that as you got a loss of 2 and then another loss of 3. That's going to be an overall loss of 5. So there you are starting -2. So here you are starting at -2, and you're adding -3. It basically means moving to the left 3 units, 1, 2, 3, boom, you're going to arrive right here at -5. Okay? Practice thinking about this. Loss of 4, gain of 5, you'd be to the good 1, right? And again, we practice drawing that out. I'm standing, always put 0 in and think about you're starting at -4. So -1, -2, -3, -4. So we're starting at -4. And then plus 5, well, that just means I'm going to move to the right 5. So I'll do that in another color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. See, I'm going to end up to the good 1, positive 1. Same thing here, just reminding you that adding a negative is the same as subtraction, is the same as minus. So when you say 6 plus -8, what I'm getting at is that means the same thing as 6 minus 8. And we're going to talk about subtraction really shortly as well. So if you were drawing this one out, you just do that here. If I'm standing, here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I'm standing at 6, and then I add a loss of 8, well, it really means I'm minus 8. Well, that means I go to the left 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to end up down here at negative 2. So again, I could draw that out to visualize why I arrive at negative 2. Okay? So standing at 6, just reminding you, and if I go whoop to the left 8, I can arrive at negative 2. So I present this as an option, this whole drawing option, but I really think in the end it's best to think about gain and loss, maybe even gain and loss of money, because you're comfortable with that. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Subtracting integers. Well, adding and subtracting are, as we know now, sort of brother-sister operations. Subtraction is just adding a negative. So subtraction can be viewed as adding a negative, but once again, I feel it's best to just think about loss and gain whenever you're adding and subtracting signed numbers. So think about this. When you say 9 minus 5 is 4, well, if you have $9 and you lose 5, of course you're going to have 4 left, right? And just know that 9 minus 5 is the same thing as 9 plus negative 5. Again, adding a loss. Adding a loss of 5, the same thing as subtracting 5. So just bear in mind that subtraction and adding a negative are the same. So here we practice just some quick mental math. We know that 7 minus 4 is 3. But here you would read this as loss of 5, lose another 3. Well, boy, you'd be in the whole 8, right? This one, I'm going to put a big star on this one. Remember that the negation of A, not A, big star on this, is equal to A, right? So like negative 6 is equal to 6, right? So be careful when you're doing problems such as this one, right? So when you say 3 minus 6, that really means that double negative there, it's really going to take you to 3 plus 6. Okay? So it really means minus a negative, it's kind of like the opposite of 6. It's going to bring you back to 6. I call it the not rule. In fact, I'm going to write that here. I call it the not rule. Because if I'm not going to the party, then I'm going to the party, right? The double negative takes on a positive. Right? So we rewrite that 3 minus 6 as 3 plus 6, and that's what leads us to 9. So that's why you're seeing that answer is 9. Let's practice that again. I'm going to grab this one. So negative 8 minus negative 2. Again, that double negative, negate a negative, and you got a positive. So you have negative 8 plus 2. Well, if I'm $8 in debt, in my bank account, and somebody gives me 2, I'd still be 6 in the hole. So you can just think about that mentally, or you can draw it out if you need to. So we see that. Now, some people have made up, I did want to mention, some people have made up sort of rules in their mind, like oops, sorry, my pen got fussy there. They've made up little rules in their mind like this. If you have, and I'm just going to mention this, if you have unlike signs, so notice you have a negative plus a positive. Some people say if you have unlike signs, subtract the two numbers and then answer takes the sign of the larger number. Yes, you can say that. So I will mention that over here. Subtract, if you're looking for a recipe, subtract the absolute value of the two numbers, so like 8 minus 2 is 6, but then answer takes the sign of the larger number. So I'm writing that here. Answer takes sign of larger number. Okay? But again, if you just draw it out on the number line, you're going to naturally get comfortable with that. If you're sitting at negative 8 and you move to the right 2, gain 2, you're going to be at negative 6. Or if you just think about money. Okay. Now we're ready. all of this was building us up to evaluating expressions, otherwise known as plug and chug. So we're told to evaluate x minus y, and we're given x is -6 and y is 8. I want you to start to think about those values as input values. So we're literally, and practice, I know this isn't a complicated expression, but just practice grabbing -6 and physically putting it in replace of x. And I always put parentheses around my input, then minus, parenthesis around my input. My input for y is 8. Okay, so now I clean it up. It says -6 minus 8. Well, think about loss. If I have a loss of 6 and another loss of 8, in terms of money, I'm going to be in the hole 14. Okay, hope that helps. And I think we have one more. You may want to hit pause and try it on your own, but let's go ahead and take care of the plug and chug for this one. We put 5 in for x. We put -9 in for y, so we have 5 plus -9. And again, if you're adding a negative, that's the same thing as subtracting. So if you have 5 and you lose 9, you're going to be in the hole 4, right? Think about money. 5 lose 9, that's not good. You're going to have -4 in your bank account. And so I'll let you rationalize that in your own mind. I think that's the last, yep, that's the last slide for today. Hope that helps in your guided notes, and I hope to add more examples in the future.